Hey, what are you doing? Bless you, little guy. Where you been all summer? Bless you. Have you been swimming? Bless you. Welcome back to the vlog. I apologize, it's been a long time coming, but we're finally back with some video footage for you and hopefully continue to be on a more regular basis. I've been working all summer because we're near the second third of the two-thirds of the summer. I am been working on a project for bring to market for all you fine fabricator welders out there, and it's kind of been under wraps. There's been a few hints on Instagram, but nothing conducive to even understanding what I'm making. But machining in the background's doing some machining. I'm working on another project that will help aid in some of this fabrication, and I just want to go over, you know, a new product that came out to market by weldtables.com. They build the tab and slot tables. They came out with a welding positioner. Now, if you're a long-time viewer of the channel, you'll see that I have a welding positioner that I built a couple years, 2 years ago, and I've used it for a lot of little odds and ends jobs. And it was pretty decent, but I wanted something, I wanted to see how other people were doing it in the market. So I went ahead and they enticed me with a, you know, early buy-in, you know, pre-production run, and it was too good of an offer for me to pass up. So I purchased one. Well, it just finally came in, and we have it sitting here on the table, and we're going to do a little short series on the assembly and build of it. Okay guys, the audio was terrible with the noise in the background, so I'm just going to go ahead and try and overdub this. So this is the Weld Tables Fab Turn welding positioner. It's powered by a drill right there in that connector there. You basically put your drill on it and you start your drill and it spins it. The gear reduction is 40-to-1. And this is the gear set right here. It's pretty heavy duty, and that was kind of the main reason why I wanted to purchase it, because I wanted to see how they were doing it, because I built one a while ago and I used a chain and sprocket. It was not near as heavy duty as that, but it seemed to work just fine. So I'm not crazy about it, but I figured I can adapt my motor that I used on my other positioner to it, and it should work just fine, and I'd have better control. The hardest thing is to get it to the right speed you need. Plus, you need to be able to start and stop it. Now, the whole frame here is laser cut out of cold rolled steel. Here, that's the gearbox there. There's covers. The pieces that I have assembled are the frame. There's your drive shafts and bearings, and then of course the gear set and grounding strap. This stuff here, it's cut pretty decent. I actually have a local laser cutter that I use that gives me better surface cut. This is not bad, but I've seen better. And some of my concerns were the holes, which in the end had some issues with the pin sliding in right. But I altered that. What I'm talking about here is the surface finish. This is cold rolled steel, which is pretty nice, but they don't clean up any of this material after they laser cut it, so you still have some burrs and things on it. So I'm just saying that I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the tumbler here and clean it up, because I like a nice smooth finish. Things tend to fit together a little bit better. They package everything up in this one box and ship it to you. It's double box, so it makes it to you just fine. Postal service is generally pretty cheap, and it's unlimited weight. And here we go. Here's the pieces that were taken out of the tumbler. Threw them in the tumbler for 20 minutes, just to give it a little even finish and degrease it. Wasn't worried about removing too many burrs or anything. There's a couple burrs left here from when it pierced this half-inch plate. You see a burr left there, but that I'd have to use a grinding disc on. But yeah, it looks a lot nicer, it's a lot cleaner, and yeah, ready to pop her together. All right, so according to these drawings right here, this is how we're going to put this together here. Looks like you have two end plates and a base plate, and then you got your two side plates, and then you got your gearbox that goes inside. Looking at that, seeing how it goes together. Pretty straightforward. There we go, there's the outside of the frame. Looks like you just need to weld here. But basically, you can probably just tack it for now. Make sure it's all square. Set it up with your 90-degree angles. Make sure you got it all square. Tack it. Make sure it's square again after you tack it. And continue putting it together. Frame all tacked in. Haven't tacked the base in yet. Woo. Weld all tab locations. Just showing right there, there. Assuming they mean you need to weld in the bottom too. We're going to tack those in. I'm going to assume that needs to be tacked too, so we're just going to tack it. Tight. I'll play. Just a tack to put it together. You can see here, they're just quick tacks on the tabs. And then we'll go back and we'll put a little bit of weld fill in there after we verify everything's right. Alrighty guys, we're back here working on this. A few days later, it is 90 degrees in the shop. We're in the middle of a heat wave.
Oh, hey.
And Dan is running the mill. Or
back.
in his mouth, one of the two.
I'm back, kind of.
So in my haste, I welded up the frame because normally, you know, you think you weld up your frame first, but in actuality, you're supposed to weld up the gearbox first, and then assemble this around the gearbox, which is kind of bass-backwards thinking. And in my defense, which is inexcusable, there's nothing in the plans that state this. You actually have to go and search out. They have a YouTube video on their website, which unfortunately they didn't have when I initially ordered that because it was a pre-order. And I never really went back to look at it because why would you? And yeah, so now I'm having to assemble this gearbox, and they had it where you put everything basically in it, all the gears, all this stuff assembled in there, and then you build the frame around it, not kind of like what the graphic shows. Which makes it a lot easier because you have to get your hands in there and move some set screws and some pins and things like that, or not cotter pins, keyways. So I am going to weld this box up and not assemble the gears in it and put it together in the frame so I don't have to tear this frame apart. And hopefully I'll be able to get it together. So that's the plan.
You know what really grinds my gears?
What, Dan?
I don't know. This thing's not charging my phone. That grinds my gears real bad. Probably couldn't even hear me.
Nope. Alrighty guys, so we're going to go ahead and tack this up. I pieced this to put it together in accordance to the way the diagram shows and the way the video. I want to peruse the video a little bit. And we're using the drive and driven shafts, which is where your flatter goes, and this is what the drill drives. And we have the bronze bushings pushed in. They come out easy enough, but they're in there a little tight, but bronze wears. So you can move your stuff around. But basically, I want them in there to make sure that when I tack this up, it stays square and doesn't move a little bit. Get a little cattywampus on you there. So I'm just going to go ahead. They say to weld the inside. And because this sits inside this frame and your welds would hit, and that would generally be true if you're making, but because I'm TIGging and I'm just tacking, I'm just going to tack there, and it's from these little tabs here, it pretty much recesses it in. So I'm just going to tack it, and then I'll probably just weld these seams here because they're flush. I could just fuse weld them and it'll be fine. I'm just going to go ahead and tack this and see if we can't keep it square. We got all four corners tacked, so this little piece here needs to be tacked in as well. This is just a brace. I don't think it's anything important, but we'll tack that in right now. Square, that turns, this guy turns, we're good. Now we can start to assemble it. So I'm going to go ahead and probably put a little fuse here on these ends. I don't know if you can see that. Bring it a little closer, I'm trying not to burn myself. But you could fuse these with TIG and you're not going to have any problem. Plus this is on the end. It's mostly for the sides here. These ones you don't tack in because they're supposed to free float, so you don't bind up your shaft. That gives it a little bit of play. But you can see I just tacked the corners here. And that would honestly probably be enough to hold this little thing. But we'll go ahead and we'll just fuse weld along the front sides. fuse welds just to hold that in. Fuse weld the backside here. That's that. That should be good enough to put together. We'll let it cool down a little bit. And then we'll do a dry fit into the frame, make sure that we can access everything. And hopefully we won't have to pull that apart because that's already all tacked up and squared and true. And I'd hate to have to tear that apart. Alright, here we are. Another day. I'm just doing this while I find the time. So I had some problems with this gearbox binding up on this frame because I built the frame first, not the gearbox first, like their video shows. I just went ahead and sanded this down, and I still had some issues, so I just eventually just got a hammer and I just tapped this out so that we had a little bit more room. So ideally you're going to want your box to move like that. If it doesn't move freely like that, you're going to need to keep working on it. So now the fun part is trying to assemble the gearbox while it's already installed in the frame. I was able to do it yesterday in a dry run, so I don't think it's really an issue. So if you inadvertently weld up your outside frame first, not a big deal. Alright, we're going to install this drive shaft now that has the worm gear on it and the collars. So this is your drive shaft here. It's the one that has the Woodruff key slot. It has some set pins. Note where they're at. That indicates the way that everything goes together. So in other words, you're going to put this collar and set it in there, like that. You're going to slide your worm gear with the Woodruff key slot and the set screw to match up with that. You're going to want to put your Woodruff key in first before you do that. Slide it together, and that will lock into that little divot. You'll then put on your other collar, and you'll lock that into that divot. And that should be a perfect alignment. So now you have to do this while this gearbox is mounted to the frame, if you built the frame first. If you didn't build the frame, and you could do this with the gearbox outside, but it's a lot more difficult to do because the collar, these shafts, press into this. So we're gonna put this together here. You want to take your time and make sure you do it right, or you'll end up doing it multiple times. Trust me, ask me how I know. So the first thing you want to do is slide this collar on. And you're going to want to put your Woodruff key in to that slot. And it's not as long as the whole entire slot, which is nice, because you need that room to actually get your shaft on. Actually, I take that back. You're going to not be able to put that Woodruff key in because you won't be able to get your shaft on, your worm gear, because it's too big. You gotta put the worm gear on first, and then you can put your Woodruff key in. Okay, then you just spin that till your Woodruff key lines up, the slot on the Woodruff key, or on the worm gear I mean, then you slide that in. I'm going to say don't tighten anything up yet until you have everything in there. Or you're going to have to undo everything. So once you got that everything on there, you can drive your shaft in so it's flush. And then you'll first start with this here. And you need to see, we need to move that over a little bit. And let's try and get that set screw in. That should drop right into that divot. You'll feel it get in there because it won't spin anymore. And it'll actually pull it tight. Perfect. Now we'll slide this over. The Woodruff key's already in there. And we're going to have to actually rotate this shaft so that I can get my Allen key on that because it's sticking straight up instead of out to the sides. I'm just using a pair of crescent wrench. Rotating that. And lining that up and setting that set screw. And I should lock that into hopefully perfect alignment. And then we have this last set screw. We're also going to have to rotate it again so that I can get the wrench in there, or the Allen. There we go. Set itself, find the hole and center it. And there we go. Now you got the gearbox assembled there. So now we're going to have to do the main drive, or the driven gear, which is the big gear here. That's going to go on this shaft and see where the set screw goes on there. So hopefully we're not going to have too much of an issue there. Alright, now we're going to put in our main shaft. This is the shaft that your platen gets welded to, if you choose to do so. If you plan to use some sort of vise clamping system, you could also install that at this time. They say in the video to weld it first, but honestly I don't think it really matters. Weld it after the fact. On the welding positioner I made, I actually used the positioner to rotate and weld it around after the point. But this is your shaft. You got to make sure that the threaded side goes into the back side here, and that's the side that has the two big loops down below, because this is where your grounding strap goes. So this basically just slides in the front. You got to slide a collar on. Alright. You got to leave it back a little bit because now you got to put your gear, main driven gear in. Okay, and it has two set screws here. You got one on each side. And it goes with this side in the front. Now, you can see the worm gear right in there. This has to drop straight down on top of that. If you try and like slide it up in, it won't slide once the shaft's in. So you gotta actually line it up, drop it straight on top, like that, and then slide your shaft in. Just like that. Slide that back on. Drop that straight onto the worm gear. And then you want to try and slide that shaft in. You want to try and keep that gear centered right above that worm gear. If you have the box already assembled, the frame, you'll see that it won't go too much further. You'll actually hit these nuts, the pivot nuts. So then you have one more collar you got to put on before you can push it all the way in. So make sure you put that on. And then slide her in. They also have divots and set points on it. Stuff's going to be a little tight the first time you assemble it, but that's okay. So you want to make sure that this is up. All these will be facing up, including this. They'll all be in a line, and that's where the set screw is, divots on both sides. and you gotta get one of them locked in first. It looks like I am off. So I'm gonna have to actually pull this back out and slide the shaft in so that these are all facing up. But you can see my divots are over there. That means my divot for this shaft is over there. So I'm gonna have to back it out and reposition the shaft. I can find the hole. There it is. There we go. Back in. And then you can tighten this first one down. This first one here. Gotta make sure your divots are all pointing up because you can't see these divots and you have no way to really locate it. But it's facing straight up, so there's 3. So you can see this one. So once you lock that one in, you can rotate that straight up. This is what I was saying, when you slide this gear in, you have to make sure this is pointing straight up or you'll miss your divot altogether. And then we're going to have some issues. It'll kind of pull itself in, straighten out, center, which it did there. You can see this last one, this one's also facing up. Let's stick it up so it doesn't slide back down. Get that snug down in. Okay, so they're all snug now, just double check. Now we gotta get the one on the other side. So we gotta rotate this thing. So this is when you would take your drill, put it on there and go slow so that make sure that the gears mesh correctly. Because if they're not meshed correctly, if you don't line it up right, it'll bind up on you. But if you try and actually turn this before you have your set screws set, like, oh, I want to set them both, or do this bottom one before you do this, it won't spin. The gear will spin, but your shaft won't spin. You'll never be able to line it up. Same as when you take it out. You gotta loosen the top one first, loosen all these, and then go to this one and then loosen this one, and then you'll be able to take it all back apart. That should be good. You can go ahead and test it.
Were you talking about a shaft there here for?
Just make sure she doesn't bind. You'll never run it that fast. Honestly, for most welding, it'll probably be ran about that. Which is going to be hard to tweak. Well, mine, I had a potentiometer control, and you had to get it pretty slow in order to get a nice even weld on certain things. But that's pretty much it. All we have left is the grounding strap. Move you back a little bit. And that's pretty easy. That just basically is a spring and one of these locking Allens. You just basically put some tension on it. That's what you're going to do. And then it has another Allen here. Basically do the same thing here. There's no spring on this one. You tighten this one down. This will allow it to pivot all the way up. You'll have the grounding strap on the straight shaft. It's actually pretty smart how they did that, because once this locks in with the Loctite that's on it, it'll never spin and the spring will just rotate and will keep this thing from binding up like that. So that's pretty much it. All you have to do is weld your top on, your platen, or in my case I have a vise and another platen with threads on. So I might weld on a nut so that I can change my platens and things around. That's what I did on mine. But the reason I bought this was to see if I can. I don't like the idea of using a drill. I mean, that's great and economical, but that's really hard to start and stop. You know, stopping's not as crucial as starting. Sometimes you have to heat the piece up, get the puddle flowing, and then you start it. Well, you're not going to be able to do that with a drill. You're going to have to actually get it going and then try and backtrack. But I like the idea of hooking the motor up to this and using the potentiometer control like I did on my other unit. And And there is the problem with using a drill. There's just no way to fine tweak this. I mean, that is too fast already for some TIG welding. And it'll just stop on its own. There's no way to really adjust this. So, but that's not why I bought this. I bought this so that I could put a motor on it and spin it properly. Just to see how these guys were doing it. But I went ahead and retrofitted, welded on a 1" by 8 thread per inch. Let's spin this off here. 3-jolt chuck that's available from, I think it's Grizzly's where I got that. It's a wood lathe chuck, so it's much smaller. And for if you're just doing thin tubing, you don't need anything beefy. You really don't need to get an expensive metal lathe chuck. But they also sell these platens. They're very cheap. I can't remember what this thing was, but it was cheap. It might have been, I don't even know. I think these were $15. They have one in aluminum and they have one in like cast steel. And you just thread these right on. No problem. I need to put a nut on here so we can lock it down. If you want a platen. They sent this 1/2 inch that you're supposed to weld on and then you can clamp on their stuff. But honestly, I had some issues and you can see there's some taper on these holes. I actually had some issues with this. The pin wouldn't go in at all. I actually had to machine this down. The pin wouldn't actually go into the holes because there was too much burr. I tried to deburr it and it just wasn't fitting. So I don't know if their tables are the same way, but that's kind of disappointing. Now this is 1/4 inch plate, this is 1/2 inch plate. And I can actually see that taper in there. And there's no way this would fit down in there and push through. Well, maybe it will. But definitely not on these. Yep, that one went through. And maybe they have these just slightly smaller, or maybe it's just the burr from when they kicked in and kicked out. But you can see it just doesn't want to go in. There we go. To push the ball in a little bit, but that's way too tight. So, but overall, it's a pretty nice little unit for what it is, for the price. Definitely going to take some tweaking. This thing keeps wanting to spin, so I'm not crazy about that. This grounding strap. Let's see if it catches a little bit. It wants to spin with it. But I'm going to mount a motor to this at some point. I have 2 motors down here and a controller for them. That's a mess down there. That's my unit that I built that's small that uses the same setup on these guys, and that I can actually adjust down to real slow. But I wanted to see how they were doing this and how they were doing their gearing, because I'm using a chain and sprocket and not gears. But I have a bigger motor. I might retrofit up to here and just see how she works, because you'll definitely be able to control that. This is terrible. This is not a good idea at all. A hose clamp with a screwdriver adjusting would probably be better, but the problem, at least with these D-walls, are they're not stable down low. And you just can't get it to go much slower than that, and it's just not quite slow enough for TIG welding. Alrighty guys, I know I came off sounding a little negative there in that last clip, but this actually is a really nice little welder. The drill thing doesn't quite work for me. Maybe it'll work for you, work for MIG welding. TIG welding, smaller stuff that you gotta get some heat into is going to be a problem. But hey, it's a nice unit and the price is right, and you guys can check it out. So go ahead and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time, guys.
So bring your A game, cause you know this party won't stop. We could never run out of time, sipping strawberry lime, you know